Welcome back to my series on Hero Chief Gear. Nope, that's not it. Follower Chief Gear. I'm going to review Follower. Let's start over. Hello, welcome to my series where I review Followers Chief Gear. So today we're going to be reviewing the Chief Gear of this chief. And I know based on the comments that he has, put in my DMs and on my videos, I know that he is fairly knowledgeable about the game. So I'm going to guess that he's probably in Gen 3 or 4. I would lean slightly to 4, but I know he's included his heroes, so we're about to find out. So, as always, we're going to start with Infantry Chief Gear. So his jacket is T1 1-star purple, and his pants are T1 1-star purple. So we like it. We like twins. Twins are great, and they match. Then we're going to look at his Marksman Chief Gear, and it's T1 purple. And then these are, the staff is T1 3 stars. Not T1, just purple 3 stars. Sorry guys, today is not a great day, and so I'm behind, and so I'm trying to catch up. So I do ask for a little bit of patience while I kind of stumble over words due to brain fog. But did I say frog? I meant fog. I'm with you. So next we're going to look at his Lancers, and those are also Twinkies. Now, what I didn't say is that the staff is just below the ring, but I do think that that's probably because he just hasn't upgraded it yet, not because he's not going to. Based on what I see, so far with all of his other chief gear, I really think that his plan will be to upgrade that. And I think that he can continue upgrading that way, the way he has it, where he goes infantry, marksman, lancer, moving forward. And I think he's on the right track with chief gear. So now we're going to take a look at charms. And so the ring is all 4s, and the staff is all 4s. If we take a look at the infantry, we see we have 5-5-4 over there, and over here we have 4-5-4. So he has prioritized his infantry charms a little more than his marksman charms. And I would recommend that he prioritize his marksman charms, because for attack you're going to use marksman, and you want them to have that lethality boost. You also giving them that boost in their health is also a good thing, because marksmen are particularly vulnerable. It's also going to help his bear score if he increases his marksman charms, and then that is of course going to get him more essence stones over time. So I would definitely leave his infantry charms where they are, and I would prioritize getting my marksman charms probably up to 6s all the way across, maybe 665 or 655 even. I think I would do no less than 665, and I would push to do all 6s all the way across. Then let's take a look at his Lancer charms. So these are 4s, so these are even with the ring right now. And then over here, these are only 3s. So the other thing I would say is go ahead and bring this Lancer up to 4. For my bear, I find my ratio, the best ratio that works for me, includes a very high number of marksmen, a relatively low number of lancers, and then like 1,000 or 2,000 infantry. But I do want my lancers, since they're there, I want them to be effective. And so increasing his charms, will help. And then, of course, when you're playing bear, you're, especially early on, you don't have enough marksmen to fill out your full rally unless you're doing capped rallies and your cap is really low, then you're not going to have enough marksmen. But even then, I don't find doing 100% marksmen to be the most effective. I use 1,000 infantry in my joiner rallies, and then I divide the number of marksmen by my rallies. So I take out my main rally, the number of marksmen that will be in my main rally, and then I divide the rest by 6 because I have 6 marches. And then I fill in any gaps with lancers. But I do make sure I have at least 5,000 lancers for any of the rallies. So if my cap is 100,000, then I use 94,000 marksmen, 5,000 lancers, and 1,000 infantry. And that ratio works best for me. So now I haven't changed my ratio. I haven't played around with my ratios for a hot minute. So maybe at some point that ratio isn't going to be the best, but that's what I have found to score me the highest right now. So for him, I would first, the first thing I would do is I would prioritize the marksmen and get their charms up to 6s, and then I would bring up the lancers to 4, and then moving forward I would do marksman, infantry, lancer, moving forward for charms. For his chief gear, I think he's on track. I would go ahead and get the marksman staff up. If he uses lancers still either in offense or defense, I would go ahead and bring those up to 1 or 2 stars. And then moving forward, I think I would actually go ahead and take my infantry up to T1 2 stars. And then once his both of his marksman gear are T1s and his lancer gear is 1 or 2 stars, and his infantry is T1 2 stars, both sets, then I would go in and start upgrading the stair step method where it's infantry, marksman, lancer. And I would keep my infantry 2 or 3 steps ahead of my marksman, just so that you have really strong infantry. He did also send me his hero gear, so let's take a look at that. So we have I'm assuming this is his main heroes because it has a strong set of equipment. So we have Flint, Alonzo, and Mia. And Flint and Alonzo, they're both at 5. Maybe he's in Gen 3. So he doesn't need to prioritize unless he's a whale or a high spender. He does not need to prioritize with Flint or Alonzo's widget because better marksmen and better infantry are going to come out within the next 2 generations of heroes. So I would not prioritize that unless he is a rally lead and is considered like the well of his group, which based on his chief gear and him being in Gen 3, I don't know that I would say that he is. I would say he's probably not, because I would think that the whale of their, quote, the whale of their group, which, you know, unless you have somebody who's a crazy spender, the higher powered person is probably going to have at least some gold gear by this point, I would think. So I don't think he's probably considered like a whale. It might be a dolphin because he does already have some gear empowered, and empowering gear is no light work. It takes a lot. So he is, for his gear, for Flint, he is focused on the glove and the belt, but he's not neglecting the goggles and the boots, so that's great. For Alonzo and Mia, he is focused on the goggles and the boots, but he's not neglecting the gloves and the belt. I would say he should increase Mia's widget and really prioritize increasing her widget and maxing it out at 10. Mia is going to be used for bear for a very long time, for at least a year. And her widget is really good for rallies because it increases your rally attack. So he has not prioritized Mia's gear as much as he has prioritized the others. So what I would say for him is that he should probably prioritize getting her goggles and boots up to 100, and then increasing the forge level. So right now they're both at 4, and I would like to see them be closer to Alonzo's and Flint's. So he has really not prioritized his Lancer gear. And again, if he's going to be using Lancers for anything, he's going to want to ensure that his Lancers are effective. So he probably will be one of those who in the future uses a 49 to 49, a 48 for 48, or, you know, some variation thereof for attack. But he, you know, it'll probably be a while if he's in Gen 3. So he'll want to use and prioritize increasing Mia's gear. Then there is a second page. Okay, so he has a second set of heroes. Oh, he's got Lynn, so he's in Gen 4. Okay, so for this second set, here's the thing is, you don't need a second set of hero gear. It's a nice to have. It is not a need to have. And unless you are a big spender, it is an expensive thing to try to do. What I would recommend he do instead is reset the XP on all of this gear and bring Mia up to 100 so that he can move to empowering it. He doesn't have any of it forged, right? No, okay. So he won't lose essence stones. He'll get XP, enhancement XP back, but he won't lose any essence stones. And I would get her gear up to 100. And then, you know, he could even use what's left to upgrade these that are already at plus 35 and plus 20 because they've already been empowered. And so he can use the rest to increase those. And then I would prioritize getting these other 3 pieces of gear, the boots and the goggles, and getting those up to where you can empower them, and then empowering them and building up a solid one set of hero gear that is really, really solid. Then once you have these all max, then you can go and start outfitting the rest of your heroes. But I would not try, unless you are a big spender, which I don't think you are, because I think if you were, we would see, I think you're probably a mid spender. And I think if you were a big spender, your hero gear, your chief gear and your charms would all be a little higher. So I think you're probably a mid to low spender. You have Mithril, which Mithril is, so I think that it is a mistake to try to outfit 2 squads with gear at this point, right? Like at some point you're eventually going to want to start expanding, and maybe at some point you, because a lot of the events like Icefire Warham, you have multiple squads. And then in Labyrinth, you have multiple squads once you hit a certain point. But if you have one really strong squad, it can beat, the stronger your one squad is, the more likely it is to beat multiple squads, right? So, again, if you're not a whale, I would not invest in a second set of gear. And the only other thing I'm going to say is he has Molly at a 3. And one of the things that I didn't pay attention to, and now I'm sorry, my dogs. Hold on one second. Guys! Hey, Samson. I'm going to pause y'all. I'm back. So one of the things about Molly is, she just feels like she's easily replaced when you get Mia for bear, and then for 1-versus-1 attacks and solo attacks, I use Reyna. I got her in 4th gen. She's a great Lancer for solo attacks and for defense. But here's the thing is, and let me pull up Molly's widget, because early on you are just learning what the widgets mean and how it all works, and so you don't really realize 24 minutes before I didn't realize how late it was. Where's my Molly?
Hey, snowball fight.
So, her widget increases defender troops' lethality. So we stopped using Molly for a while, right? Like she's just kind of a filler for when you're doing joiners and you need an extra person to increase your capacity, you use Molly. Or if you're sending out multiple marches, you use Molly. But you don't really think of Molly as like contributing anything other than being an extra hero. And at some point, you're going to realize that you probably want to use Molly as a defensive Lancer. Because if you max her widget, she offers a substantial buff. So if you put her in a garrison, I only have her to a 6, and if I put her in a garrison, she's going to increase defender troops' lethality by 10%. So we definitely don't want to be neglecting Molly, because we will be wanting to use her widget and this skill in garrisons later on, especially if you're a garrison lead. If you're not a garrison lead, it's not as important for your alliance that you do that, but it will help in things like Crazy Joe, or if y'all end up having city attacks during state versus state or brothers in arms, having that skill will make a difference to your, and so I would just say, like, don't neglect Molly's widget. I would prioritize Mia's widget right now, but don't neglect Molly's widget. And then for Lynn, I prefer Gwen, and I'm going to show you why. So Lynn's widget is also for defense. So she increases defender troops' lethality by 15%. Now, I do have her max at 10. I was a mid-spender. I had that financial ability to increase most of my heroes. Many of my heroes, they either have a over 5 widget or their max, right? And she's one of them. So I would use Lynn as a defensive marksman and Molly as a defensive lancer. And if you look at
Dancing in the Wind,
Gwen boosts rally troops lethality by 15%. So you wouldn't want to use Lynn on the attack if you could use Gwen, right? So you want to think about, if you are free to play, you do not have the luxury of prioritizing 2 sets of, one set that's going to be strictly offensive and 1 set that's going to be strictly defensive. You have to prioritize and just go with the best hero of that generation. But if you are a mid-spender, then I would suggest that you consider going ahead and upgrading Molly's widget as you can, getting it as high as you can. And of course, everybody needs to max Mia's widget. That if you are free to play, you should prioritizing her widget will help you get more later, right? So that's what I would suggest is, and then he needs to decide if he's gonna, Alonzo is great as an offensive archer. Lynn is great as a defensive archer. He's going to want to replace Flint with Hector. He can keep Flint until Gen 5. Flint is, he's a good all-around guy. So Geronimo has the rally boost, so he increases your rally attack, and but he's incredibly expensive to get, and you have to wait until I think VIP 10 before you can max him. I don't remember, it's been a minute since I maxed him. So if you have the money, Geronimo is a great option because he let's take a look. So one thing that Natalia and Geronimo both offer that none of the other heroes have is this special skill. So even if he is not in your rally, he increases your lethality and health by 15% for all troops. So he doesn't have to be in my rally. I don't have to send him, and he's already increased my troops' lethality and health by 15%. And then if I do have him in my rally, he increases rally troops' attack by 15%. So, Geronimo's not somebody that you're gonna, I wouldn't rely on Geronimo in a garrison. I would put Hector there. Hector's skill is related to defense. He increases defender troops attack by 15%. He's also he's a good hero. He's a good hero to have in your bear if you don't have Geronimo. Like he's very strong. And so he's good in your attack rally if you don't have Geronimo. If you have Geronimo, I would use Geronimo for bear, at least until he's replaced in later generation. But, you don't need to get Amos in Gen 4 and then get Hector in Gen 5. You could skip Amos and just go straight to Hector. So if you already have Flint, I would skip Amos and get Hector. And, whether you get Reyna depends on if you just want to rely on Mia for everything. Then, you probably don't need Reyna. But I will say Reyna is better if you're doing solo attacks. And then Molly would be better for defense if you increase her widget. So, all right, that's my feedback. And sorry for the interruptions and for my brain kind of being a little bit today. But, as always, if you have some thoughts, please share them in the comments or feel free to DM me. And if you like my content, if you could like, comment, share, that would mean a lot to me. And lastly, I just am going to plug my Patreon in case anybody wants to support my content monetarily. I am not going to stop making the content. It brings me joy, but, if you like it enough, you feel like it's worth something, you're welcome to support me in my Patreon. All right, y'all have a good day.